Jeffrey?
Joshua.
What are you laughing for? We haven't even started yet.
Just, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to fucking throw at me.
Well, I've got something good. Have you ever heard of a reverse phone charger?
No.
Neither have I until I bought one unintentionally, plugged my phone into charge last night with 80% battery, woke up this morning with 17% battery. Reverse phone charger. I don't know if I was like powering the grid. Apparently, it was just sucking the fucking energy out of my phone and giving it back
Perfect.
to the grid.
That
But
is
reverse phone chargers
that is a useful device.
available for Christmas at every Apple store joke shop, apparently.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. We should probably prepare things. No, we did. What did we say? Non-verbal communication.
The importance of
Oh, good old
non-verbal
pal.
communication in the sale.
Go on then, rip
Okay.
us. Let's
All
start.
right.
Where do you want to go?
Well, we had a conversation about this yesterday and a little bit this morning. And my take is that a lot of people are learning the script. They're focusing on their tonality. But for me, that's a little bit like trying to run before you can walk. Because if you can't nail basic communication, then you could be saying the right things, but your non-verbals could be communicating the exact fucking opposite. So when we're talking about sales, doesn't matter what guise it's in. Obviously, in our case, it's remote high ticket, but everything is about communication and effective communication. How do you communicate an idea? How do you effectively challenge somebody? And again, that can be vocal or that can be physical. And the two have got to be in sync, because if your vocal is on point, like we discussed, right? If I'm trying to convey a point to you sat here like this, it comes across one way. If I'm trying to convey a point to you sat here like this, totally different meaning. One way feels like I'm interacting and I'm on point and I'm sat upright and I mean what I say. This communicates that I don't really give a fuck. And maybe I don't give a fuck about you. Maybe I don't give a fuck about the product, but it definitely communicates that I don't give a fuck. And it's as simple as that to that. So I just think so many people need to get the foundation right before they learn these, fucking clever reframes and reverse analogy hooks when the Jupiter's in retrograde and fucking all this bullshit. And yet people aren't getting the basic communication correct. I don't know. You tell me your take.
To us, it infuriates us because this is just basic communication. Take sales off the table. If you were sitting there with a friend, and for the purposes of anyone listening rather than watching, Jeff's example was being leaned back on his chair, being, comparison up to the mic. Okay. If you were to do that with a friend, you are going to signal to your friend that you don't give a shit about what they're telling you. It's really that simple. And it infuriates us because it is basic communication. And when we sit and watch call reviews and you've got a rep who's just really like zoned out of the conversation, they're laid back in their chair. It's about perception. Turn off the audio and just watch it with no audio at all. If you were going to do that, what do you pick up from it? Well, if they're leaned back in their chair, you just pick up the fact they don't give a shit. And now you put yourself in your prospect's shoes. How do they feel with someone leaned back in their chair, disinterested, not engaged in what they're saying? They're there to try and find a solution. They're there dumping their pain and their deep, dark, dirty secrets of where they want to get to someone who just doesn't care. To me, it's rude and it's a disservice to the people that we are there to help. We've said it before, everyone gets into closing to make money, to make them sort of 10, 20, 30, 50K months that always get talked about online. There is so much that goes into it. A lot of it is really basic stuff. The inputs to get that output could be as simple as just being engaged in the conversation. It's like the old example of like someone in a Hawaiian shirt trying to sell to someone in a pinstripe suit. It's the same thing. There are a lot of elements that go into it. Reading the room, being engaged, actually making sure that, if you're selling a B2B, you're not showing up in a snapback hat and a hoodie. You're using their gestures and tones. Oh, yeah. It infuriates us. There was a specific example, which we won't mention, but it's ridiculous.
And here's the thing. You can get better at nonverbal communication just by being a better people watcher. Do you know what I mean? When you're sat on a park bench, look at how people are interacting. Look at how they interact when they're happy. Look at how they interact when they're having an argument, and watch from a distance. That will tell you everything you need to know about how important communication is. And we know from stats and studies that somewhere around 10 to 12% of your communication is verbal. I mean, that leaves a shitload of percent on the table that is tonality based, that is physically based, your gestures on your face, how you're sat, how you hold yourself. All of that plays into it. And like you said, dude, it's not difficult to learn. Just be an observer, just watch other people. And you'll get a flavor of how important body language is. Like, you know, we did an exercise in the group the other day, didn't we? We said, you know, say something really like joyful and happy, but with a really stern frown on your face. It's really difficult to do because your physicality follows your vocabulary and vice versa. You know, so we will always advocate for reps. Stand up during your calls. You've got more energy when you stood up. You're more animated when you stood up. You know, even if you're on the phone, stand up. If you normally gesticulate with your hands, gesticulate with your hands, even if you're on the phone, because that is going to animate your voice more, because the two are intrinsically linked. And anybody that doubts it, try now. Try and say something really angrily with a joyful, happy, eyebrows raised expression on your face. It feels awkward. It's so hard to do. And that's because your language and your physicality are intrinsically linked to one another.
Yeah. I think the problem is, much like everything to do with sales, there's so like contrasting opinions. Like you look at some people and they will say to be so like use their hand movements for like everything to like, you know, try and concept it and make it visual and be like up here and down here and be, you know, the problem is, you know, we can both think of a specific example we did recently where they needed someone who was just absolutely solid sat in front of them. They were looking for so much certainty. They had such a shit situation that they were genuinely trying to solve. They needed to solve for them, for their family, for their future. And the person on the other end, their non-verbal communication in itself was a disservice. And it just communicated to them that they didn't care. And this person was in such pain, like crying, real need to solve something. And they're just like moving every 2 seconds. And it's just like, you need to plant yourself, right? If I were you, I would plant yourself like a 1,000-year oak tree. Be the guiding light, the shining example, the certainty that that person needs right now. Because you moving around scattered is exactly what is going on in their brain. They are scattered. They have 30 years of experience and pain and turmoil behind them. They need someone who is just like, I can help you. And what they got was something so completely different. Yeah, like the conversation we had. It's the first time I've actually come away from a call review actually angry because of the disservice that was done to that prospect.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the, you know, 80-20, right? What was it? You said 12% is verbal. So now you can buy a Hawaiian shirt, wrong body movements, leaning back in your chair. You could say all the right stuff. You could be the Billy Goat of the sales, all, you know, every single sales trainer wrapped into one. If you've got 88% you've done wrong, sale gone. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Ta-ta.
Good luck. Sayonara. See you later.
Sayonara. Sayonara.
The words do not matter without everything else supporting it.
Yeah. Why do you think so many people struggle with it? Because I said, obviously, you know, we find it takes sales off the table. We find it a basic thing. Why do you think so many people just don't get it or even see the importance of it?
I think it's a few different things from my perspective. I think it's that you and I are fascinated with sales and communication and psychology and stuff like that. So we study it, right? I think it's that the internet doesn't help for the modern generation. Do you know what I mean? I don't think, and obviously, you know, I'm considerably older than Yao, but because you've got an interest in communication and sales, it's led you to understand it. I think some people are just good communicators. Some people understand this intrinsically. You know, they kind of just naturally get it about, oh, I shouldn't sit like that because, you know, that's going to, like, they just know that subconsciously. But I think the internet for a lot of the younger generation means that our physical interactions are so significantly reduced from where they were 20 years ago. We used to interact with people all the time. So you would just naturally watch and people watch and observe and stuff like that. And because of the internet and because everybody's just fucking scrolling on TikTok the whole day, they don't get that interaction that we used to get. Do you know what I mean? I think that probably plays a part in it somewhere. I think it's that not enough sales trainers talk about the importance of nonverbal communication. It needs to be that. At the end of the day, it's like we said, that's the foundation. There's no point in having all of the other stuff if you haven't got that right. You need to start with basic communication skills. How do you drop like from your vocabulary. And I know that I say it too much. And it's not a massive amount, at least I don't think. I'll probably have to listen to a podcast back and I'll pick myself up on it. But it's how do you include pauses in your communication as opposed to like, because that indicates to not consciously, but that indicates somebody younger. Do you know what I mean? Specifically to my generation, if somebody's liking likey like every other sentence, for me, that it signifies that that person doesn't have good enough communicative skills in order to articulate what they want to articulate without having to fill every other word, you know? Dude, I don't know. I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's the internet hasn't helped. I think it's the modern generation don't interact enough because of the internet. I think people don't put enough weight on how important non-verbal skills are in sales. I think it's a bunch of stuff. What about you?
I would say the same. The internet, and think about, again, outside of sales. You think if you wanted to go and court someone of the opposite sex back in the day, you wanted to go on a
Or even the
date.
same
Well, how did
sex.
you do it? Or even the same sex. We don't judge. Even the same sex. If you wanted to, you had to go out. You had to go to a bar. You had to meet people. You had to go and find that genuine interest and connection and way of saying, hi, I'm Josh in real life, not, hi, I'm Josh's Tinder profile. Oh, it looks like we've got the same interests. And then we have a conversation, then we meet up. And again, it's an internet problem. So it's like we've lost so much just natural communication from the real world. If you
Mm.
wanted to, go and get a takeaway, what did most people do? They'd have to drive down and chat to someone. Even something as simple as, oh, hey, mate, how's your week been? Oh, yeah, no, I'll just get my usual kebab and chips, whatever it is. Oh, how's the missus?
Oh,
We've
kebab
lost
and
so
chips.
much of that.
Sorry.
We've lost so much of that basic stuff just from having the convenience of the internet. And this is something
Yep.
weirdly that I've always been told I was like old beyond my years. I distinctly remember being 7 or 8 years old, watching kids running around and playing games on the playground and being like, you look like a bunch of idiots. Like, what are you doing with your time? And I've always been a bit old beyond my years. And this has always been a concept that I've always thought about. The more technologically evolved we get, the more, socially devolved we are becoming, the more separated from people. And it's a really horrible, concept when you sit and think about it, that we have never been more connected and disconnected at the same time because of the internet and everything that we have at our fingertips now. And it's horrible. I'm going to go on this whole big I've said now because you've said it. You've put it in my brain. I'm young. I can't articulate.
You dumbass. And don't let anybody tell
No,
you that you're old beyond your years. You look great for 39.
thank you very much. It's just weird the fact that, again, another thing that I think about, we're all this one human race, and we can have such contrarian views on such stupid little things. We gave feedback to that particular person the other day, and they just didn't even know why it was relevant. They've been through sales training, very similar stuff to what we've done before they were part of our community. And yeah, I'm going on a rant. I'm really conscious of saying the word like now. So it's completely
Bad, isn't
thrown
it?
me.
It's bad. But
It's
do
weird.
you know what? I had to unlearn that because both of my boys, right? They use the word like because
Mhm.
that's the generation that they are. And it started to become part of my natural language pattern. And I had to unlearn it, and sometimes I'll still pick up on myself doing it. But that might not be relevant if you're selling to somebody of a younger generation, but it absolutely is relevant if you're selling to somebody older. I remember a podcast from Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, where he interviewed that chick from, was it Game of Thrones?
Emilia Clarke?
No, dark-haired girl.
Who's she play?
I don't
Cersei?
know. I never watched it that in depth. Young
Oh.
girl. She was,
You've never watched Game of Thrones?
well, not no. It was on in the background. I never really watched it. I don't know. There were
Degenerate.
dragons. There was tits. It was kind of okay, whatever. That's kind of
That's
all I
just a
took away
Wednesday
from
night
it.
for you.
Hey, it's an average
I said that's
Thursday
just
night.
a Wednesday night for you, dragons and tits.
Dragons and
Anyway,
tits. Yeah, but
yeah,
I distinctly remember this podcast, and I could not fathom the amount. And maybe when I edit this podcast, I'll put a little clip just so that everybody can understand what we're talking about. but it was wild. It wasn't just every sentence, it was every other word. And I was like
Right.
thinking like, because like literally that much. I could not believe it. I couldn't. I thought, wow, that is insane. I couldn't. I had to turn it off. Like it was like it was so annoying. I had to turn it off. Couldn't listen to it. Couldn't finish the podcast. It was so annoying. So if you're selling to somebody of a younger generation, you know, no problem. Fill your boots, like your balls off. But if you're selling to somebody a little bit older, early 40s, late 40s and up, that's probably not going to communicate very well with them. It's going to annoy them. I couldn't finish the podcast, even though I was interested in the topic, because I just got so annoyed. I thought, I just can't listen to this anymore. It's doing my head in.
We make it. No, we don't. I'm going to retract that. There might be people that listening that think there is so much that goes into this. We're talking about all these little nuances, and then there's the verbal, there's the non-verbal, there's the scripting, there's the frameworks, there's the reframes, there's the pitching, there's the pre-pitching. When you learn sales in the wrong way, I wouldn't, hold it against you thinking this sounds really complicated. There are a lot of people that like to massively overcomplicate this. When you really boil it down, what me and Jeff have just been talking about, sitting there not crossing your arms, not pulling a face when they say something that to them they could pick up, their perception could be, well, he disagrees with what I've just said. Sitting there with like a hand on your all this sort of stuff. It's really basic communication,
Yeah.
not saying stupid things, listening to what people say to you, understanding their real pain, positioning your solution as the bridge to get them from where they are now to where they want to be. When you really boil it down and you learn it in the right way, this is why me and Jeff get so infuriated looking at things like this and just being like, how do you not get it? And I think, again, it is because of the internet. There's so much information out there. People get complacent and they stop thinking about the basic things and start looking for like these big needle movers. Oh, that's new. That's exciting. I'm going to focus all my time on identity splitting and selling. And it's like, okay, 100% you need to do that, but not at the cost of the basics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Couldn't agree
Make
more.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It's really not complicated. And again, we've said it before, you can never get complacent. I've been coaching teams for a while now. I actually took a live call the other day because we had a lot of closers off and I felt rusty because I can sit there and I can coach people. And, when I've got time to think about it and pick up on things in the background, it's a lot easier to give that feedback. And when you're there every single day on the phones, you coach yourself and it becomes your natural thing. You take a step back from that for a week, you go on holiday and you come back. Most people would probably notice it. Even if they're 5 years into the game and go on holiday for a week and then jump back on the phone, it's like, do I remember how to talk to people?
Yeah. It's
then
like
take
it's like
3 months,
when
6
you learn a
months.
language.
Yeah.
If you're constantly speaking it, it stays top of mind. The second you stop using that language and you go back to try to do it. I used to be pretty fluent at French. And my parents lived in France for years and years and years. When my mum passed away a number of years ago, obviously I went over to France to be with Dad. And I'd forgotten so much. I had forgotten so much. And you've got to think of sales as a method of communication. It's like its own language. So if you don't use it daily, those skills slip. You do forget. It does, like a muscle that you don't exercise for a while. It gets weaker.
The first 5 years of driving a car, I had a manual car. I then bought an automatic, and a year later, having owned an automatic, tried to drive a manual car again, made an absolute tit of myself doing hill starts in traffic. I was like, how does this clutch thing work? Oh, you very quickly pick it up again because your brain does remember and it gets back into the habits and the patterns, but you can't become complacent. Even, me, I've got nearly 10 years in sales. Jeff has got, more than that. If we took a big time out of it, just because we sit here teaching people how to do it, you still need to be involved in it. And if you get complacent, if you ever get to the ceiling, that's when you know you've made a mistake, because there is never a ceiling to this. Every day is a school day. I am every single day prepared for someone to turn around and tell me I don't know shit about shit. And for me, that's a good thing. I invite that sort of feedback. Because if it gets me to that next level, that next version of myself that allows me to make more money, help more people, I need that. I am open to that. That's another problem in itself. Not a lot of people are open to feedback. A lot of people think they are at that ceiling. They've got no further they can go. So then when you say you will lean back in your chair and they go, well, why is that fucking important? I made 10 grand last month. I'm like, okay, cool. There's people making 50 grand a month. Why are you not doing that? All right, maybe sit up in your chair then. What if it was as simple as uncrossing your arms, not pulling a stupid face, just, turning the sound off and watching your calls that sort of way? What if that was the thing that took you from 10K a month to 20K a month?
Yep.
Oh, but no,
Because
you want to
because
sit
you
there
were
and watch.
you were so heavily focused on your script and your reframes and all the things that you forgot the
Yeah,
basics. You forgot the non-verbal communication and how important that is.
if I'm hiring any setters or closers, like obviously we do role plays. I don't really care about the skills all that much. Like someone could come to me, they know every word verbatim, every single Instagram clickbaity word track. If they were just a shit human being, like if I don't feel like they could just go and sit on a park bench and strike up a conversation, I couldn't go down the pub and, whether there was alcohol involved or not, just be able to spend a couple of hours getting to know someone. I don't want that person on the team. They could be, coachable as hell, have all the stuff, but if they're just a bit of a shit person,
I think
that's the 80
that's the
20.
point, right? Is sales skills can be taught, and non-verbal, all of the nuance that can be taught too. But it's much easier to teach somebody sales skills than it is to teach somebody to be a naturally good communicator. So I'm the same as you. I would always look to hire somebody who is got some natural charisma. They're a naturally good communicator. That they would think nothing about sitting down on a park bench and saying, that looks nice, what you got in your sandwich? Do you know what I mean? That would be a natural thing for them to do. That person is going to make a better salesperson every single day of the week.
Every single day of the week. I know plenty of people who, and I've always been that sort of person, probably why I'm okay, half decent at sales, is I used to know every single person when I lived in Maidstone. There was a Tesco in Tovel Tesco. I knew every single staff member's name in there because I went into Tesco every day and I would just chat to people. And I
Yep.
remember going in there with some of my friends at the time, and I was like 19, chatting to 62-year-old Tracy, and they're like, "How do you know her?" And I'm like, "Because she works in Tesco." And they're like, "Yeah, but outside of that," I'm like, "Because she works in Tesco."
Because I'm a
And I'm like,
human
"Well, yeah."
being.
I was like, "Yeah, I just talk to people," and they're like, "That's weird. Like you don't know her from anywhere." And I was like, "Why is that weird?"
It's crazy.
Yeah, I used to have so many bus friends as well. I was the sort of person I used to get a lot of buses.
Bus mates.
bus, bus wanker. And I just like, if I'm standing at a bus stop waiting for, and I know the next bus isn't coming for 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, well, I haven't got anything else to do other than watch the world go by or sit and scroll on my phone. I could do that anytime. I'm probably never going to be sat next to this person again. So, what you got in your sandwich? How's your day going? Where you getting the bus to? Oh, start a conversation. They might be a shit person. They might not talk back to you, but you've tried your best. And if they're a Jehovah's Witness, no, we won't go there. Had a few of
On that note,
them.
okay.
On
Whoa.
that note,
Whoa. Okay. What is it they say? Don't discuss religion, politics, or I don't know,
that one, yeah. I'll
something
slap
else.
myself on the wrist.
Anyway,
There
my
we
dude,
go.
where
As always,
if
we'll
people
see
want
if
to
any
find
of
you,
this was usable. Yeah,
well,
I've made a bit of a boo boo. I've changed all of my social handles. So all of the podcasts before this, absolutely useless. Just as always, from school somewhere, call Josh for a good time. Doesn't matter what country, what time zone. They all point back to me because I get around a bit. What about you?
if you want my sales content, then it's just my name, Jeff Ketterer, on TikTok. If you want business related content, it's Jeff Ketterer, but on Instagram.
Sales growth, Josh. That's it. That's what I am. Sales growth, Josh.
Till next time,
Call
buddy.
for a good time.
Later.